Everything is clear. Hello and welcome to FDS. My name is Nate and I am your host. Today we are going to talk about a guild kit, Strixhaven, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, insert your own battle box. I would often find myself buying commander decks, brawl decks, guild kits, and never opening them, never playing them. Or I would basically open them up, cannibalize them for cards, and then the rest of the cards would just go into my collection in awkward spots because they're not their own set, they're in the other thing, they're just a general headache in my collection. But when I was building my guild kit battle box a couple of years ago, I realized that I didn't have to just limit building battle boxes for guild kits. I could build all different types of battle boxes, any kind I wanted. Instead of just buying a brawl deck like this, I could just buy all the brawl decks and build a battle box out of them. I realized, why just buy one when you can buy them all? I get for some of these sets, it's a little cost prohibitive, but depending on the set, it might actually not be that bad. And especially with the more recent commander sets that have become readily available for extended periods of time. In fact, we're a couple sets removed from Strixhaven and you can still get the commander decks for that set in big box stores. It is fairly simple to get together a battle box of your favorite commander set or supplemental product that is essentially a set of individual decks that are in a lot of ways meant to play each other. All it takes is a little bit of planning. If it's a supplemental set that has already been released, then that changes things a little bit. You'll have to be a little bit more creative in trying to get them. For example, the guild kits. They're a little bit harder to come by. They're a little bit more expensive because they were released a couple years ago and they were very well liked. And we hadn't hit the era of Magic production when things outside of Wizards' control, pandemic, was making production ridiculous. So as long as the set you're looking at is not out of print or only recently out of print and still readily available, you can actually take your time and pick up these decks one by one and build it on your own and eventually pull it together. And in addition to this, while you're doing that, you can be getting the other components that you may want to have for the battle box. I build my battle boxes with a few standard components. You've got your Dragon Shield outer sleeves, you've got your KMC Perfect Fits or your Dragon Shield Perfect Fits, those work as well, and then your boulders. And typically if you're going for a commander set, then obviously you want to do your boulder 100 plus, or if you're doing something like the guild kits, then you would do an 80 plus or a 60 plus depending on the size deck that you wanted to use. The part where it gets a little it's different depending on the set is really the bigger box itself. Whether you're using an Arkhive 400 plus, an Arkhive 800 plus, a Smarthive, a dungeon, a Potamajig if it works out, a dex protection, a quiver, it's all going to depend on your personal taste and exactly what you're putting together. If you're putting together the Adventures in the Forgotten Realm commander decks, or maybe Commander 2018, if you have those on hand, then you could use a Smarthive because it's only 4 decks. A Smarthive fits 4 decks, or you can use an Arkhive 400 plus. If you're doing the Commander 2020 set or the Strixhaven Commander set, then you're going to need 5 decks. So you're going to need something like the Arkhive 550 plus or the 800 plus, or maybe something like the dungeon. You're going to need a larger box to fit these cards in. I want to point out here, if you want to use the Smarthive for the Strixhaven set and Silver Quill reminds you of that awkward goth stage in your history, and so you'd rather just not play with that deck, you can just chuck it. And now you just have 4 decks and you can use the Smarthive and you're good to go. That's the thing. This is your battle box. It doesn't have to be all of the decks from the set. It can be the decks that you like to play. It can be the decks that you know work well together. If you know that there is a deck from a particular commander set or guild kit or whatever supplemental product is not very well liked or has a weird mechanic or isn't even well balanced, it's either not powerful enough compared to the other decks or it's too powerful, then just don't play that one. Don't use it. You're good to go. You're all set. It's your choice. Some people like me are completionists. If I'm going to do a Strixhaven Commander set, I'm going to do them all. I'm going to have them all in a box, and I just like that. I like having that. But you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want with your battle box. I do whatever I want with mine. You do whatever you want with yours. Another thing about a battle box is you could build them from scratch. You could buy the battle decks from Card Kingdom if you want and build a battle box using those. You could buy just general theme decks that have been created in different, I know game stores, my local game store, they make commander decks You could just buy those and buy a couple of commander decks from there and build a battle box using that, or you could build your own. You can build a battle box for any constructed format you can think of. I think battle boxes are very useful because they remove a very complicated portion of Magic, and that's deck building. A lot of casual players have zero interest in building a deck. A lot of casual players have zero interest in playing draft. I think battle boxes bridge that gap of having a deck that's playable, but then also having it be complicated enough that it can be entertaining for an enfranchised player. That was always the criticisms of things like dual decks or planeswalker decks, is their power level was low. They had very low power level, they didn't have very interesting cards, so enfranchised players generally weren't interested in playing with them, getting them for cards, anything like that. And I also think that's why they went away. I realize I'm oversimplifying, but I think there's a reason we don't see them around anymore. And I think there's a reason why we're seeing more and more of a focus on the Commander products and on the Commander decks. Because Wizards has realized that if they build decks that can be played by a casual player, but also are interesting to an enfranchised player, they're going to be able to sell more decks. So I think this is a perfect time to start thinking about building battle boxes. That's why I have my Jumpstart Battle Box video, and I also have my Unsanctioned Cube video, because this is a great time to start building battle boxes, because there's so many options for you right now, and there's only more to come because they're coming out with more Commander products later on in the year. And the other thing is you can mix and match. You can have a couple of Commander decks from this set and a couple of Commander decks from this set, put them together, and you have your very own customized battle box. You really aren't limited in this space. I would encourage you to think about the type of battle box you would like to make, and then I would encourage you to click on that video right there. This show is part of the CIP network, inspiring creativity, one episode at a time.